This is going to be a very nostalgic review. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I'm driving a 2013 Mazdaspeed 3. Up front is a 2.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder and down below is a 6-speed manual gearbox. Now let's talk about that 2.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Well, it might sound kind of familiar to any Ford fans out there. If you know the EcoBoost motors, specifically in the EcoBoost Mustang, are 2.3 liters. But we'll get more to that in a little bit. This car's quick. Not gonna lie, Speed 3s are fast. Speed 3s are not slow in any sort of respect. Especially this Speed 3, because this Speed 3 has the boost kicked up to 22 PSI. 22 PSI! And that's through an access port, of course. But still, it's just, this sucker goes. Supposedly, the turbos can only hold really up to 23 PSI, so I'm glad Daniel has it kept at 22, just right on the edge there. The transmission is a 6-speed, and I really don't have any complaints over it. Mazda really does know how to make their transmissions. Alright, now my one complaint with a first gen Speed 3, because this is second gen, was the torque steer. So, wow. This thing almost has no torque steer. That is really impressive. That was a huge complaint with the first gen Speed 3s, was that you put your foot down, if you're not holding onto the wheel, you're going right. That was really good actually. I'm genuinely surprised. Okay, I just did a harder pull. There is a little bit of torque steer, but it's not bad. It's not nearly as horrendous as the first gens. The first gen was bad, man. It was not good. Torque steer wise, that is. It was a phenomenal car otherwise, but the first gen's torque steer was real bad. This car, as you'll notice by either the title or just straight up seeing the car, this car is bagged, and I've never reviewed a bagged car before. It's on an airlift bag system and has a couple different settings, which I'll cycle through here. And what's really cool is the car actually gains and loses a lot of height between the settings, which is really nice for a show car, because then if you want to air it out and look absolutely sweet, of course you can do that. But you also get the functionality. Right now I'm driving on a pretty mild setup. I'm not the highest that the car will sit, but I'm definitely not slammed. So with the bags, how's the ride? Well, the ride actually isn't that bad. It's definitely better than cut springs or any slammed Miata I've ever driven. It's way better than that. It's also not gonna be the most cushiony. It's pretty close. You could get it pretty close to stock feeling, but it's still not. You're not gonna get stock feeling unless you have a stock setup. Alright, so that is something I did not consider with bags. As you could hear, maybe, the air compressor is just whining right now, refilling with air. It's not overly loud. Obviously, you guys can still hear me, but I guess I didn't consider that. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have gauges, of course, that have little red outlines, and I like them, but they're nothing special. They do say Mazdaspeed on them, which is fun because this is a little bit more of a special car. It's the Mazdaspeed 3, it's not just the Mazda 3. What's also nice is in between the gauges, I get a little boost gauge. Now, it's a boost gauge from the factory, but unlike the Focus ST, it actually has positive and negative. So it's a real boost gauge, but it only goes up to 15 PSI. So when I get on it, it just maxes out at the top of the gauge and then doesn't give me any more info. The steering wheel is full of buttons. I feel like this was really at the peak where Mazda was really starting to get a bunch of features. So I have voice control, volume controls, I have cruise control, everything is on the steering wheel, which is really nice and really handy. To the left of me, obviously, I have the access port, which is super handy, but that's not stock on all cars. Up above the center radio and whatnot, I have a little screen that says average fuel economy, average speed, and then also another little screen just saying where my heating and air controls are. In the center, I have a giant touchscreen radio, which I believe is aftermarket. Another weird thing is that on the button on the radio, there's just a button that just says loud. It just says loud. That's all it says. I got heating and air, and as you can see, Daniel has made his entire interior look like an Arizona can. Down in the center, I have hideaway cup holders, which is interesting. But I think the most important thing about the interior is the fact that it's a 4-door, 4-seater. Super practical. This is a practical car, and a very fast one at that. And really, the back seats aren't anything to brag about, but they're definitely useful. It's not like an RX-8 where I guess if you have to, you can fit someone. No, you can fit someone thoroughly in the back of a Speed 3. Very comfortably, actually. The Speed 3 is basically a Ford Focus ST before the Ford Focus ST was a Ford Focus ST. You know what I mean? And before you guys get all up in arms about it, think about this. From 96 to 2015, Ford owned a third of Mazda. A third of Mazda. So any car made from 96 to 2015 has some type of Ford roots. Yes, granted, the RX-8 and Miata, Mazda kept those them. They're like, no, these are ours. Stay away from that. But cars like this, the Speed 3 and the 3, had heavy help from Ford. If you guys looked at any Mazda tributes from the 2000s, those are just Ford Escapes rebadged. So it's really not a stretch to say that the ST, and quite frankly the RS, probably owe a little bit of their success to this car, to the Speed 3. I mean, some research and design was probably shared between the platforms. Now, why did I say in the beginning that this review was going to be nostalgic? Well, I was really excited to do this review because I learned how to drive stick shift on a first-gen Mazdaspeed 3. I'll show a picture here, and I loved that car. It was my neighbor's car, and whenever he'd go out of town, at first he would let my brother borrow it when my brother was only 16 and I was maybe 14 at the time. He would let him borrow it so my brother could learn stick shift as well. And then when I finally got my license, then I learned stick shift on it. And we even took it on a road trip once. Anytime he'd leave town, he would let us borrow it. It was just, that car was so quick. I remember the Speed 3 being so quick that anytime we were in it, anytime we drive it, we felt like kings of the road. It was such a cool feeling to not only learn how to drive stick shift, we were earning our man cards, you know, in high school, but to drive something actually fast was awesome. So forever in my mind, the Speed 3 will be totally cool, and I really hope to get one day. There's kids on a bus waving at me. So I don't think this is really the fault of the Speed 3, but I do kind of prefer the look of the first gen Speed 3 as opposed to this, the second gen. That might just be my own personal opinion because the first gen Speed 3 is so close to my heart, but whatever I think about the looks of it, I immediately forget about. So would I drive a bagged car? And the answer is absolutely. I'm not going to beat around the bush with that. I would drive a bagged car. I would have a bagged car. I would bag my car in a heartbeat. It just makes sense. The fact that I can air out if I need to, it'll look cool, but the fact that I can raise it back up and I'm not just absolutely murdering oil pans, that's what I like about it. And for that reason alone, I would bag a car in a heartbeat. It literally just comes down to price. The airlift systems, unfortunately, are not the cheapest. So would I buy a Speed 3? Absolutely. Would I buy one over a Focus ST? Absolutely. I really like the Speed 3 better than the Focus ST. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Mazda fanboy, which I'm not denying. I am a Mazda fanboy. But I just like the feel of this car a lot better. I don't know what it is. I think the shifter's further this way. These seats really hold you well. And man, with that boost cranked up, This thing is fun. I could get in a lot of trouble with this, speak of the devil. There's a cop right there. So really the only downside I could see, I just am not a huge personal fan of the looks. It's a little too bubbly for my taste. But man, is it fun. I could daily drive one of these in a heartbeat. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. I hope you guys learned something about the 2013 Mazdaspeed 3. But again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys. There goes a sight from my soul.